There was an article in Adweek that I think that really has the mainstream media greatly concerned. They're greatly concerned because the young people aren't consuming news from them. They aren't taking the narratives anymore. But in this particular article here, and I titled it really how it should have been titled based on the finding. They were stating that teens get the majority of their news online, and they say they're not really surprised by that. But they said the days of reading a physical newspaper or sitting in front of a television for the evening news have long passed. Yes, because people don't have time to wait for a particular time to watch anything, including me. If I don't have DVR or if it's not on my phone or my tablet, I ain't got time. No, I have to have that access when I want to have access. Then I binge watch. So I'm no different than anyone else. So you had a organization named Common Sense and also Survey Monkey. Now, we've used Survey Monkey to do our own demographics research on our channel because YouTube only gives you so much. I like to know a little bit more about the people who's watching so I can tailor the content for those people, or I can look at it and say, hey, man, I want to bring up this demographic, so let me do some content to get my demographics up. So I definitely use them. So they conducted, and this is very interesting, teenagers between 13 and 17, okay, between June 14th and 25th. And they found that 54% of the respondents get their news and at least a few times a week from social networking platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and 1/2 do so from YouTube. So YouTube is a very, very important place in the news cycle. Okay. But it gets very, very interesting from there. Now, say of those who watch on YouTube, 6 out of 10 said they were more likely to get their news from celebrities, influencers, and personalities than the mainstream media sources, even though they're here on the YouTube platform. Okay. That's very, very concerning for them. Because you're not taking the, oh, well, here's this politician. This is who you need to vote for. You get what I'm saying? They're telling you who to vote for. They'd rather listen to, believe it or not, they'll listen to Cardi B on politics than they will listen to Anderson Cooper. OK, they'll rather listen to a person like myself than listen to someone on MSNBC like Rachel Maddow or whatever. Just giving you, or definitely they're not listening to Joy Reid. And they're not, okay? I know they're scratching their head, so we have the multi-million-dollar studios. These people don't have any of that. We got the big high rises in the downtown. We're paying these huge salaries to these newscasters, and yet we're not getting the viewership. This is very concerning. And really, if they start looking at it, you're paying your newscasters way too much money because you're losing money because people's not watching. Now, they continue to state that Common Sense stated that teens' news habits reflect the diversity of the modern media landscape. And while most news organizations maintain accounts on social media and other platforms, they are competing for attention with corporate brands, celebrities, influencers, and personal connections. Now, let's talk about YouTube. The mainstream media cannot compete even though they get an advantage on YouTube. Now, you may say, well, how do they get an advantage, Phil? They have this thing about, oh, you need to combat fake news and yada, yada, yada. So what they do is they push up the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox News channels, videos up first over a person like myself or any other independent content creator, right? So even with them getting their videos pushed up first, they still not competing, even though they're on the YouTube platform. Now, let's say among the teens who actually turn to news organizations for news, 65% said it helps them better understand what's going on, while 53% of those who get news from news and social media have the same sentiment, and 19% said getting news via social networks make them confused about current events. And that's a small amount, but you got to make sure the people that you're going to have some type of integrity. They want to actually show you. Because see, I have a thing about, I like to show you because I want you to get that visual picture. So if I can get a video, I'll show you. You don't have to be a 10-minute video or nothing, but that visual learning is just something that's very easy for a lot of people. Now, this is what they stated here. Now, this is the key here. OK, with the 2020 election looming, Common Sense and Survey Monkey looked at respondents 16 and older who will be eligible to vote, finding that 85% are likely to do so and 61% very likely. Now, other findings they said included 78% of respondents said following current events is important to them. Just 41% get news from news organizations, print and online, at least a few times a week, and 37% do so from TV. So TV is dying. It's a dying platform. They would do better putting ads on a YouTube video than they would on TV. They say among the respondents who turn to YouTube for news, one half said they most often find news because it was recommended by the Google-owned video sites such as Watch Next videos or a sidebar. Okay, so they say they get it recommended based on the YouTube algorithm. They said 27% of teens who get their news via YouTube subscribe to specific channels for news, while 10% find news on the video site in the search area, and only 7% find it because it was shared by someone they know in real life. We're talking about younger people here. Now, our biggest demographic isn't 13 to 17. It's more so that 25 to 34, then that 35 to whatever it is, next demographic. That's our biggest, people that watch us. So, when some people say, well, you may get the viewership with the subscribers. That's why I tell people it's important for you to subscribe, because as they doing this research to find out who's watching what, they're going to try more dirty tricks to harm the independent content creators, because you have to understand, people like myself and many other people on YouTube didn't go to these journalism schools. And yet, how is it that we're resonating with the everyday people like yourself? See, they don't get it. They don't get it. It's not about the high dollar studio. It's not about the how many degrees you have. It's about, do you have the pulse of the people? Do you keep your ear to the street? That's what it is. And not selling yourself out for government agendas or whatever agenda you're selling yourself out for. Now, that's called what it is. Everyone has an agenda. You're silly to say you don't have one. And having an agenda isn't bad. For instance, if you're a parent, your agenda is to take care of your children. Your agenda is to provide for your children enough and make money so they can go to college and feed them every day and whatever you got to do. That's an agenda. An agenda could be good, an agenda can be bad. 71% of the teens who consume news daily via YouTube get news from celebrities, influencers, and personalities, compared to just 28% from news organizations. So more than the majority of the teens get it from, like I said, the Cardi B's. They can get it from people like myself or different other personalities. And like I said, Cardi B or whoever else don't have a journalism degree. They don't. But the people listen to them. They are very salty about that 28% from news organizations. Very, very salty. But, they put themselves in that position. So they say why YouTube, say 64% of the respondents said seeing pictures and videos showing what happened helped them to understand major events, while 36% said they prefer to read or hear the facts about what happened. Now, podcast is something that's growing big time and resonating with a lot of people. People like to listen to things because they didn't. When I put up my podcast and I share it right here on YouTube and say, hey, go over there and listen to the podcast, people listening to the podcast. And I'm very happy I haven't done my podcast within a year, and we are approaching almost 250,000 listens in almost a year on our podcast. So people are listening to podcasts. It just has to be the people that's doing it on video, transitioning themselves to a podcast. It's not about where you're doing it. It's that, do you have the ear of the people? Now, they also stated that, once again, I'm going to talk about this. They said the CEO of Common Sense stated these findings raise concerns about what kind of news the next generation is using to shape their decisions. There are few standards for what constitutes news and how accurately it portrayed on the platforms teens use. With the 2020 election coming up, we need to make sure teens are getting their news from reliable sources, thinking critically and making informed decisions. That's an insulting statement. So basically what you're saying is any kind of celebrity can't think critically and can't be informed. You're saying that teenagers shouldn't, basically you need to control what they're thinking. That's what you're saying by that. So we want you to listen to the mainstream media, and they're controlled. They can have a journalist right now that be sitting on a story right now in one of these newsrooms and want to put the story out as a journalist. And they can't, because they're higher up say, no, we can't put that out. Or, oh, I got this expose about this police department. They're doing this. And no, we can't be against the police department like that because of XYZ. You get what I'm saying? They hold back their own journalists. That's why you even have journalists in the mainstream media are walking away from their jobs and creating their own platforms and being more successful creating their own platforms than on these mainstream media outlets. And if they are brave enough to go through all the things they need to go through to create these platforms, then they can do that. They can. Then they said the chief research officer of SurveyMonkey stated, while it's notable that teens rely heavily on platforms such as Facebook and YouTube to stay informed, their reliance on news from celebrities and influencers rather than journalists may have pernicious implications. It's a bit of a paradox, he says. Overwhelmingly, teens say that they are interested in keeping with the news, but they're not seeking out traditional media to do so. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media is letting each other know that we are losing the information war, because that's what it is. We are losing it because we cannot wage our propaganda campaigns. People will listen to influencers and celebrities and personalities a lot more than what Fox News is doing. Trust me, the Fox News crowd, that is a bunch of older people. That's not young people. Young people are actually online, and whatever your leanings are, I don't care, but that's what they're talking about. Understand? So this is why you have the adpocalypse happen. And this is why you having YouTube constantly being attacked by the Wall Street Journal and all these different organizations, because they're upset because more people's eyes and ears is on YouTube and wherever the personalities is at. So what I will say is, don't be surprised if another attack happens against YouTube or Facebook or whatever sites that are major, that people are sharing ideas or trading things. Don't be surprised, because listen, they talk about the 2020 election. They look at celebrities and personalities and influencers as people that got the minds of the people in the ears. And they want to tell you, you need to vote for Joe Biden. He's electable. You need to vote for Kamala Harris. You need to vote for Elizabeth Warren. They want to tell you who's who. OK, but remember, I always tell you about even the election process. Donald Trump. Now, what I mean by Donald Trump, he was the person that they said couldn't get elected. And yet the mainstream media is the reason why Donald Trump got elected. Understand? They are the one that put out the polls that's saying, oh, he's not going to win. Hillary's going to defeat him in a landslide. And what happened? You get what I'm saying? When people watch things like that, they don't trust the mainstream media. The mainstream media has been caught so many times lying to the people. What happened was that people on social media and personalities have actually got to the news not only faster than them, but actually told the truth and didn't hide it. That's the problem with the mainstream media. You broke the trust of the people. And one thing about trust is easy to lose, but so hard to get it back. And then when you use dirty tactics against content creators or YouTube, people see that too. They get what you're doing, so you make it worse for yourself. Actually, if you would actually concede and say, man, maybe I need to learn what they're doing, or get rid of all these high dollar journalists out of here and get rid of the agenda that we have, right? And actually do what the people want, then you will have the eyes and ears. But it's just not going to happen because you guys are the fourth estate. We all know that. So, let's see the dirty tricks they may pull with this. But, if I was the people in YouTube, you better expect them to try some more dirt. They're already trying it. Because even in the article, when it said the part like recommended by, the next video based on the algorithm, they had it highlighted in red, like recommended. And I'm like, why would he highlight this in red? You get what I'm saying? Like, say, the only reason they're being watched because they're being recommended. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and all that gets recommended too. It gets recommended just as much as actually it gets recommended more than one of my videos get recommended. You understand what I'm saying? So they just can't compete, ladies and gentlemen. But you're the people they want. They feel that you have to understand. They spend so much money on media because if you can control the hearts and minds of the people, you can sell them anything. And you're at a point now that you don't want propaganda. You want the truth. You expect the truth. You don't want an edited video. Then you look up later and then you watch the whole video and it's not what they were trying to portray. See, when y'all done all these dirty dealings with black people and all things you've done with other groups of people, you've been caught so many times red-handed, trying to shape a narrative to harm people. Well, now you lost the people. That's just really what it is. And the only reason Donald Trump had people following him was because he used social media. He don't go through the traditional media. Donald Trump really kind of spearheaded, and believe it or not, Donald Trump's been a great person for independent media, because he has labeled y'all fake news and all things that he labeled y'all. And that's another group of people that's not trusting y'all. And when you get caught editing videos or editing people's words, you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you did it to yourselves. Well, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story, ladies and gentlemen. But we definitely welcome all the ears and over here. And, you know, when it comes to the 2020 election, I'm going to be upfront with it. Whoever people vote for is on them. I'm not going to tell you vote for this person. I will say this person may be more toward our agenda as black people, I will say, but I'm not going to tell you who to vote for at the end of the day. I'll just tell you who I won't vote for. That's what I will do. OK, so I don't think we should be in the process of telling people what to do. Just provide the information based on what is good for us as a community. So as, you know, a international black media outlet, we will do so.